The cities of Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and St. Paul continue to face the challenges presented with the COVID-19 pandemic. Connor Chan chats with MLA David Hanson on how the communities have been changing.
Joining me today is MLA from Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and St. Paul, David Hanson. David, first off, thanks a lot for joining me today.
Not a problem, Connor.
Let's start with just some general outlooks on how the communities of Bonnyville and St. Paul and Cold Lake have handled the COVID pandemic. I know it's been different from community to community, but just give us a sense on what those communities have gone through and also what you've been hearing from the residents there.
Well, I think overall our area up in Northeast has done a great job. We've had very, very few cases right from the beginning on. We have a couple of active cases right now, but other than that, I think the communities have done a great job.
Let's start with just kind of what has the general response been from people? Like, what's been the number one kind of common thing you've been hearing? You know, I know with stores, businesses being closed, have there been other kind of economic worries in those regards?
Oh, for sure. You know, with some of our smaller operators, the hair salons and podiatrists, that kind of thing, that, you know, that was a big part of their business is one-on-one contact, and even some of the gyms and trainers and that, I heard quite a bit from them, you know, anxious to get back to work. So I'm glad that, you know, during these phases of reopening that we can get these guys back at it. And it's been a tough ride, but we'll, you know, I have to commend our residents for following the rules.
How do you feel the way that Jason Kenney has handled the province of Alberta's COVID-19 plan?
Well, I think he's done a pretty good job considering, you know, we were one of the most open jurisdictions throughout this, and we've managed to keep our numbers relatively stable.
Now, with many cities across the province already talking about making masks mandatory, I just want your general opinion on what you think if they should be mandatory in the Lakeland regions here, and just your general thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's a little bit different when you look at areas like Edmonton, Calgary that have had some significant numbers. And when you got people in confined areas like buses and that, I can understand the need for when you can't properly social distance to have a mask on.
But do you think it also makes sense as well, just to kind of also from a safety measure as well in those smaller communities? Because I know, you know, it doesn't matter where you are. It should also be, you know, some health precautions could also be taken.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be mandatory at this point, but I think if people are nervous about it, that, you know, if they feel more comfortable wearing a mask, or if they're a business owner and they're more comfortable having people wear a mask, then that should be their decision.
Last week, it was announced that students in Alberta will be going back to school. We did speak with Garth Rosewell last week about the plans within, like, his thoughts on Scenario 1. So now I just want to love to know what you thought of the Education Minister's plan with Scenario 1 and opening schools back up to students.
Well, you know, they spend a lot of time this summer watching COVID-19, how it responds, especially with kids. And I think they've done their assessment properly, and we look forward to getting kids back into the classroom where they belong, and hopefully we can get there with following some pretty stringent guidelines.
Have you talked to those school divisions in Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul? And I know every school division is going to be different when it comes to physical distancing. Have you talked to those school divisions in particular and what their plan could be?
Just, you know, briefly with touch and base to make sure they're comfortable with it. I know that the school boards across the province have been in support of getting students back into the classroom. So I look forward to helping out wherever I can.
Going back a little bit to talking about some of the communities that are kind of still recovering, I know it's not quite over yet with this pandemic. Do you feel like the way that your area in particular with Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and St. Paul have done are going to continue to hopefully find ways to economically and also just recover emotionally, I guess?
Yeah, you know, we've had, it's not just COVID, we've had quite a blow to our communities up there in Northeast because of the lower oil prices. So hopefully with if we can get oil back up to a reasonable amount per barrel and reduce these restrictions, and, you know, hopefully we don't see another outbreak with COVID-19 that affects us economically.
Well, David, I really appreciate your time, and thanks a lot for joining me today.
No problem, Connor, anytime.